I've been fascinated by a film as I've reflected on it more after seeing it several months ago. It is the film Flight with Denzel Washington. What has fascinated me, Tara, is that Denzel does something that many actors have not been able to do. Denzel does something worthy of note. The character in the film Flight that Denzel plays, Linda, is the protagonist and the antagonist. The protagonist, for those who may not be familiar with this term, is the main character of a film, pro meaning for. But then also the antagonist is the one who is against the main character. And what is amazing is that Denzel is the protagonist and the antagonist simultaneously in the film. The entire film rests upon Denzel's performance, playing psychologically two roles, Brother Montgomery, at one as a gifted pilot and simultaneously also a drunk drug abuser and womanizer. We witness no villains or groups attempting to destroy Denzel. Denzel is the hero and the villain simultaneously. We spend the entire film rooting for Denzel's heroic side, hopefully that it will emerge triumphant. The entire story is written around the simple premise that Denzel's character, known as Whip Whitaker, will defeat the enemy within and be transformed by the renewing of his mind. It takes a skillful actor to play the protagonist and the antagonist simultaneously. And when Paul is writing this particular epistle, he is writing to a church divided of protagonists and antagonists. But it is not just protagonists on one side and antagonists on the other. That there is a church, and within this church, that are people who are the enemy within. Historically, the Emperor Claudius expelled Jews from Rome, and after this edict laxed somewhere in 59 CE, Jews returned back to Rome. Many of them Jewish Christians, and some of them Gentiles, but both of them loved Christ. But there was a conflict that was happening within the church. The conflict arose within this religious community. There was no external Roman pressure to create the conflict. The conflict was internal. The conflict was a result of people who had good intentions, but yet they were their own worst enemy. Paul simply elegantly lays forth theological arguments within the entire epistle that is much of the foundation of Christian doctrine. And so here you have Jews and Gentiles struggling under the same roof. And our spotlight comes today in this often quoted passage. There's an exegetical concern at the framework of this, that it says, renewing of your mind. You know, what's interesting is that the word mind, Reverend Clyde, can be translated as renewing of your insight, renewing of your understanding, renewing of your thinking, or just utilizing the word mind. That Greek term for mind can be translated on those levels, but it can never be translated in the word that we use today as brain. You can say mind, but it cannot be translated brain, because my brain is not my mind. The African understanding is that mind and spirit were connected. And the physical entity known as the brain is not the same as your mind. The brain is, according to one poet in Hampton, is nothing more than a mass of tissue. It is the biological entity made up of cells and chemicals designed to control the voluntary and involuntary activities of the body. My brain has a function, but if it is devoid of mind, then my acts of love, compassion, truth, and integrity are nowhere to be found. The mind is separate from the brain. One can have a functioning brain, but there can still be no mind. that everything can be functioning in the brain, but the mind may not be right. According to the Kemetic principles known in Egyptian, there's something called the Ka-Oba. As Dr. Naim Akbar writes in one of his books, he says that there's a connection between the mind and the spirit, and African people have known this. The mind is not the soul, but our spirit informs the mind, and the mind gives the brain purpose. Paul writes to a community struggling like Whitaker that the greatest enemy to the church does not come from external forces, but internal forces, internal turmoil. And Paul is saying that you no longer need to be conformed by the pattern of this world, but you need a renewing, not of your brain, but you need a renewing of your mind. You see, the greatest opponent of Joe Louis, Sister Pauline, was not Max Schmeling, but was Joe Louis. The greatest opponent of Muhammad Ali was not Joe Frazier, but was Muhammad Ali. The greatest opponent of Michael Jordan was not the Detroit Pistons, but was Michael Jordan. And the greatest opponent in Lance Armstrong's life was not anybody else, but Lance Armstrong. The greatest enemy is the one we live with every day. The one you look in the mirror and look at. The one who will bring you down is not somebody outside of your house, but is the one you look at in the mirror. Because if your mind is not right, and your mind is not renewed, you will give in to the patterns of the world, and you will find yourself in a different position. I ain't gonna get no help this morning, but that's all right. We are the heroes and the villains in our own drama. We are the protagonists and the antagonists. Anytime you have tripped and fallen, it is not necessarily because somebody tripped you. It is because you did something that you did not see, or you were engaged in something that puts you in the position. Let me break it down this way. There was a door open you shouldn't have walked through, but you decide to walk through it anyway. The enemy is within you. Truth be told, it was not somebody who sabotaged our life or stole our dreams. We are the culprit in the crime, and a warrant should be issued for our arrest and assault and battery that we instigated against our own future. At some point, you made a decision. At some point, you contributed to your own demise. Don't try to blame it all on the devil. All the devil does is offer you some things. You have to make the decision whether you want to taste it or not. Rhymefest, in our panel discussion yesterday, Rhymefest, the activist and the rapper, he was wonderful, Sister Pauline. He said he was so honest about his decision. He said, I made some decisions that have hurt my family, and I'm rectifying them now. Start talking about, he said, I try to tell my son good mate selection. You see, I was in the hip-hop industry, and I had groupies everywhere. And there are some places you don't want to meet your mate. He said, I met my first child's mama at Shark's Chicken and Fish. So that's not a good place to meet your mate. He said, I met my other child's mother on the L train. That's not a good place to meet your mate. He said, I'm trying to teach my children that you need to put yourself in a position to make better decisions. You can't blame it on somebody else. You have to accept responsibility that I contributed in my own demise. And I am the hero and the villain of my own story. I stopped trying to say it was somebody else. That you are the hero and you are the villain. And Paul tells us not to be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. But prominently, part of our problem is that we enter our present bound by our past. We are defined by choices
our upbringing, and our actions that others have had acted upon us, and we are caught in a cycle that yesterday presses upon today. That so often we are so caught into yesterday that we are unable to make clear choices about today. But I'm here to declare that external conditions do not shape your internal connection. That there may be some external conditions pressing against you, but they do not have to define who you are. Let me see, I'm just about done. I'll get out your way. May the road rise to meet you. I'm done. How do I overcome the battle in my mind? This thing is so simple. It's so simple. I'm embarrassed to even say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. How do you overcome? How do I overcome? It's one simple thing. Paul says, do not be conformed by the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Wait a minute, it's so simple. I mean, when I came across it, it was so simple. Paul is saying to the church at Rome, make a choice. That's it. That's it. That's it. All right, may the road rise and meet y'all. That's all I got to say. Make a choice. I choose, and I have power to choose. That there are things pressing against me, but I have power to choose my destiny. That no matter what my past is, I have power to choose my future. No matter what happened to me yesterday, I can make a choice every day. And that's why I have issue with some church folk. I ain't talking about Christians. Come into church like you're doing God a favor. That you want the preacher to hype you up. I ain't no hype man. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm sorry. You ought to come in here with something that you have on your own because of what God has already done for you. You ought to make a choice when you wake up in the morning to say, I'm going to give God the glory. And I don't know if I have anyone in here. Can you make a choice right now for what God has done for you, that you can open up your mouth and give God praise? I choose. So you don't understand. My life got too much issues, too many issues. So God is still God. And if God is still God, I don't know what will happen tomorrow. But for the next few hours, I'm going to say how good God has been, because my mouth may be shut tomorrow. I may not be alive tomorrow. But right now, while I've got breath in my body, I'm going to give God praise. Right now, while I can still speak, right now, while I can still walk, right now. I choose. Every day, we have the power to choose, release ourselves from our past, and to have a renewed mind. So touch your neighbor and say, I choose. Somebody needs to choose today. Don't choose your depression. Choose your joy. Don't choose your pain. Choose your power. Don't choose to hang your head. Choose to lift your head up. Somebody needs to choose right now. The demonic's trying to get you to hang your head, but I say I'm going to choose right now. I may not have money in my pocket, but I choose to praise. I may not have a roof over my head, but I choose to pray. I make a choice. And my choice is not based upon the pattern of this world. I can choose in spite of my circumstance.